Hi guys, and welcome to another review, this time TRN TA1 Max. This is the third generation, let's put it that way, of the TA series. And before I go any further, I just want to say the best one. That's it. Anyway, let me just quickly show you the box. Usual TRN fashion. Opens up, the IMs came in there, underneath plenty tips, that's never an issue with TRN. The cable, this one that came was actually the one with the microphone. Yeah, it's okay, the cable. I mean, it's fine. I'm assuming that the cable for the non-microphone one will be exactly the same. It's fine, it's acceptable. I mean, this is roughly $40, so you can't really complain too much. I've seen better options, I've seen worse. So anyway, simple, effective, and that's it. What is new about the TA1 Max? Well, it's a return to the original format. This is the original TA1, okay, bullet style kind of IM. This one used an 8mm and a BA 33518, the same as the new model, and 8mm driver. Okay, the latest one is a return to that fashion, although it's now an open back design. It still uses the same 33518, but it uses a 10mm beryllium coated driver. In between these two generations, which are roughly almost 2 years apart from each other, we had this model, the TA2, which was a departure from the let's say nice shell, both in terms of shape and finish and feel and everything. Both the TA1 and the TA1 Max, they ooze a certain amount of quality, and this was a usage of the more traditional shell, plastic metal faceplate, 8mm with dual BAs inside. And well, this was a disappointment. Honestly, this was really a disappointment. It was a big step backwards. It was a bloated mess in terms of bass. It just, I don't know. I really don't understand. I sometimes try and understand what is the premise behind an engineer that is tuning. What is his idea? What isn't his idea? What is he's trying to achieve? And you know, time and time again, I get just absolutely gobsmacked with some of the things that come out, because you're expecting an evolution, but no, we have a step backwards. Anyway, I'll show you the graph now in a second. This is then the latest TA1 Max. Like I said, it's a return to the original shell design. Overall size is just slightly bigger, open back design, beryllium driver, 10mm, so slightly bigger. And although the same kind of tuning is still there, present, you could say this is a kind of a W-tuned IM. They've gone back to, let's say, the original tuning of the TA1 with regards to how things were handled past 1K, and I mean, well done for that. Let's put it that way, well done. It's got a little bit more bass than the original TA1 in terms of, let's say, below 80 hertz. There's a more of a flat response there, as opposed to the dropping off that the TA1 had. And yeah, let me just show you the graph. I think it will be easier. So the green line, okay, the original TA1, and you can see all three, they have just various degrees of bass quantity. Base quality, we'll get there in a second. And then the green line carries on, peaks at 2.5, peaks at 4.5, and then dips, and then peaks again, and then carries on. This dip that it had, that they had, oops, my apologies. This dip that was present here on the TA1 and on the subsequent models is a dip that was somewhat responsible to, it was beneficial and detrimental. It was beneficial in the sense that it kind of tried to do away with some sibilance, which I guess it was successful to an extent, but it closed off the sound a lot with regards to the presence area. So I found that they all suffered from, the initial model and the second one suffered from a little bit of detail retrieval, a little bit of sense of space. Okay. Then the red line was the TA2, and that honestly was, I don't understand. I mean, a bloated mess in the bass. They increased the bass by 4 to 5 dBs, unnecessarily so. And then, although it had the same or similar pinna gain with a similar initial peak at 2.5 and then plateaued, it then started rolling off at 3.5, and that crevice there, it just shut down the IM completely. So upper mids, oh my god, my apologies, upper mids were just not there. It wasn't so much the area then past the peak that was a problem. That was actually okay. It was just that you were missing a whole bunch of information around here. It just closed off the IM completely. It just became bass, bad bass, highs, and nothing in between basically. And that was a real pity. The blue line, our TA1 Max, as you can see, bass below 100 kind of maintains itself almost flat, almost a slight roll off, but it stays within 2 dBs roughly. It then goes down and has the same pinna gain as before, but it matches the TA1, the green line, very nicely. Same kind of thing. The difference, the main difference is that there isn't so much of a drop. So that crevice that was also existent in the TA1 is not as pronounced. It doesn't drop below the lowest point of when the mids start, when the pinna gain starts. And then the rest basically remains itself. What this all then translates to, what this all then translates to is the following. And we're going to forget this one. I'm not even going to bother with this one. There. But it's good that I have it so that we can obviously make comparisons. What this all translates to is that the TA1 was somewhat thin sounding IEM. It had nice bass quality, but the quantity was definitely missing. And the fact that it had that dip there, like I mentioned, and like I showed you, in that, that area of between 4.5 and 8K roughly, it kind of closed it down slightly, but because the bass wasn't so pronounced as it was then in the TA2, the psychoacoustic effect that has was that it didn't seem like it was missing that much information in that area. So overall the sound was engaging enough to be fun, and what is an interesting take for what it was, because that was an IEM that cost around $25. So for the price and a hybrid, different form factor, half interesting sound, it wasn't too bad. The TA2, like I said, was a total mess. And now the TA1 Max. First of all, the usage of a bigger dynamic driver has given the overall sound a completely different feel. It's way more dynamic. The bass is way more dynamic. There's obviously more bass quantity because of using a bigger driver, but the quality has improved substantially. The TA2, the bass on that is just horrendous, honestly. Bad. The TA1 had good bass, it was just lacking in quantity. Over here now, no, there's no lack of quantity of bass on the TA2, on the TA1 Max, sorry. It's a reasonably well mannered bass in the sense that it bleeds a little bit into the mids. Yes, it does. I'm not going to say it doesn't bleed, but and I'll get that in a second. It's a bass which reminds me very much of the bass of a EDX-Ultra and of the CRA Plus. It's got basically the same kind of. It stays within a dB of those two IEMs, so it's very similar the way that is done there. So it's a nice bass. It's got a good thump to it, a good mid bass thump to it. It's got decent enough texture for what it is. It's quick enough. Okay, it's a nice engaging bass. It's a bass that will get you tapping. Let's put it that way. And then it enters obviously the mids with all the and again, the fact that it has that dip, but because the dip isn't as pronounced as before, psychoacoustically you get this perception of things being way flatter than what they are, at least graphically shown to be. So the fact that the dip here is much smaller, it just, this whole section here, when you listen, perceives itself to be more balanced out. Yes, you do notice that some instruments just are missing that final little, let's call it, zing to them. I did find that female voices sometimes were lacking that ultimate crispness that they required. But overall, the reality is that without a shadow of a doubt, this is the best TRN TA series IEM, and dare I say, because of the price, that it gives the VX Pro a good, but a really good run for its money. And when you actually compare the curves of the two, really, I don't have the curve here, unfortunately, the graph, sorry, but the real difference that can be seen between the VX Pro and the Max is that you don't have this dip in the VX Pro. It's actually filled out and it's a slightly, it's a little bit above. That's really graphically how it is. And when you listen, what you do notice that the VX Pro does have is more liveliness, more energy in the upper mids and presence area. There's more sense of air, okay? But again, like I say, the fact that this is lacking a little bit of that in that area, I actually think that it renders it tonally more correct than the VX Pro, okay? The VX Pro has got more of a, it seems more, it comes across as a way more colored IEM than this one is. Technically speaking, in terms of detailed retrieval and soundstage and imaging and resolution and so on, look, they are, I guess, half acceptable for what this IEM is and costs. Resolution is okay. Detailed retrieval has its moments. It has moments where it's actually quite surprising. And I'll post the songs that I usually use. And Frank McComb has got a good reproduction. Soundstage, not the widest. Imaging, it's barely okay. Let's put it that way. So I mean, technically, it's not good, not bad. It's not bad in the sense that it's not offensive in what it doesn't manage to do. It's not again doesn't. I would say that the detailed retrieval is probably the best, the standout of the technicalities of the Max. And again, the tonality and the timbre. I find the tonality and the timbre to be actually quite good, and perhaps even superior to the VX Pro. So all in all, well done, TRN. I mean, well done. I wish that this success, let's put it that way, was the success that the BAX was having, because, like I said, my particular unit of the BAX has got a ton load of bass, and it's just such a pity, such a pity. But anyway, it is what it is. Just one final thing that I want to say, and it has to do with what are its competitors, or what other things do we have out there which are similar in sound. Well, we have two of them right over here, CRA Plus and the EDX-Ultra. Both very similar sounding IEMs. This one a little bit more unpolished in the treble. This one's more polished in the treble. So a clear evolution over that one. Otherwise, the rest is very similar. This, in terms of sound, is, I'm not going to say an in-between, okay? I'm not going to say it's an in-between. It has, like I said, the bass characteristics and the mids up to about 1.5, 2K, very similar to these two. And then it has occasions that from there on to about 8, 9K, it can actually match those two quite nicely. Funny enough, although it uses a BA, so this is a hybrid, the 1+1, it doesn't have the same treble extension that you get on these two, but also it doesn't have the same unpolished feel that the CRA Plus has. You do notice that it definitely doesn't have the amount of, in terms of quantity, that these two have of treble. I would say it's about an in-between there in terms of quantity. In terms of quality, the quality is pending more towards the Ultra. These two, my main complaint, take that with a grain of salt about it, was that the treble here was unpolished. It could be harsh, especially at high volume. There it was corrected, it was improved upon, but it could still come across as a little bit unable to deal with busy tracks. This I find is on par with, in that aspect, with the dealing of complex tracks. I find that it's on par with the EDX-Ultra. Overall, and having said what I just said, what do I think is perhaps the drawbacks that this IM might have in comparison to those? Well, one drawback is the fact that the price is a little bit more expensive than those two. You can have an Ultra for $22, $23. You can have a CRA Plus for about $30. This is about $40. And there's really nothing that this offers which is superior to those two, apart from the fact that it's got a nicer build quality, brings the case. So in terms of the presentation of the IM, it's superior, yes, but sound-wise, it is not a better sounding IM than those two. So I think that will probably be the biggest issue with guaranteeing the success of the Max, is the fact that although it does have a good sound and good build quality and a good accessories package and everything, it's a step in the right direction, and maybe a Max Evo will finally be the one that hits the nail on the head. But the price point that it has, it will be very much you as an end user that will decide what you want. One other final aspect to keep in mind is the fact that it's this form factor, the kind of bullet style. It might not be the best fitting for everybody. I had to really struggle a little bit with tips, and I'm actually using the BGVP tips that I sometimes use as opposed to the 07s, because the 07s just it kept falling off. The tips here are very much the make or break in terms of security, or of keeping the IEM secure in your ears. And that's basically it, guys. Once again, TA1 Max, well done, TRN. A good evolution in the TA series. Sounds nice. It's a fun IEM. It's colored. Yes, it's not the ultimate in terms of technicalities and detail retrievals and everything. I mean, if I'm to compare this with a Chew in that aspect will eat this alive. But it's fun. It's engaging. It gets you going. It's got a nice shape. It's nice. As compared, its biggest adversaries really are the CRA Plus and the EDX-Ultra. Well, we're going to have another one, but these two currently are its biggest adversaries, I would say. And their price is the thing that they have, which will justify maybe them over this. This one does have better accessories package, a better build quality, but that's basically it. Anyway, guys, like I say, usually, if you like, click the subscribe button, like button, comment, ask away questions, and I'll do my best to answer as always. All right, you take care. Bye bye.